Yesterday, the village idiot Donald Trump presented us with a new stupid executive order. Executive orders have always been asinine since I started reading them right after the imbecile was inaugurated on January 20th, 2025. They always seem like they were written by like 16-year-olds. No offense to 16-year-olds, but like 15, 16-year-olds who were trying to pretend to be lawyers. I haven't read any in a while. And granted, I'm no legal expert, but it just seemed that way. I haven't read any in a while, but when today's or yesterday's executive order came up, I didn't have a chance to review it yesterday, but I decided was worth it was worth reading because it might be just as dumb. It could potentially be the dumbest of all of them, the most ridiculous of all of them. So I want to share it with you. We're going to read just a little bit of it, and I'm just going to talk about it quickly. So the executive order that came out yesterday, and I just have to look over here because I have a teleprompter, but I haven't sort of mastered using it yet with stuff like this. So we'll get there. Designating fentanyl as a weapon of mass destruction. So the village idiot and the goofballs around him have determined that what they want to do is designate fentanyl as a weapon of mass destruction, like a nuclear bomb or like a biological weapon, right? Or like a chemical weapon, right? So drug dealers, organized drug dealers, cartels and whatnot, bringing fentanyl into the U.S. will now be, according to the village idiot and this stupid executive order, will now be considered to be a weapon of mass destruction. Now, of course, before we get into the stupidity of this ridiculous executive order, why? Like, why would they do it? One, it could just be that Trump just wants it. I said it's a weapon of mass destruction, and that's what I want. I want it to be that. It's very dangerous. It's big weapon of mass destruction. I saying it, and I know things. I have a big brain, very big brain. I have the biggest brain, and I know a lot about fentanyl. So maybe it's that, right? Maybe the idiot just had a brain fart, or Stephen Miller or somebody else whispered this nonsense into his ear, and he thought, "Oh, yeah, that's what I need to do." Or it could be that in order to start a war, right? Because we know the imbecile certainly wants to start a war in Venezuela, potentially Colombia, and God knows where else. I have a thought about that. I think the intent, the overall grand intent for the moron is to, because he wants to be king. He wants to be, I really truly believe that deep down inside his ultimate monarchical wet dream is that Putin is the king of Europe, she is the king of Asia, and he's the king of the Americas, right? So I think that's somewhere in that crazy mind of his, right? He hasn't said it yet, but I imagine sooner or later he will, if I'm right about that. But on a more in the micro and not necessarily the big picture thinking, not the macro thinking of the village idiot, obviously in just 3 days, the Epstein files are required to come out. We'll see what has been redacted, what comes out, if anything, what is there, right? And they certainly, no matter what they do, right, with the Epstein files, the Department of Justice, no matter what they do, they will want to distract us from the Epstein files, right? That's inevitable, right? So if the village idiot's war that he wants to start with Venezuela, potentially Colombia as well, to create a regional war, if that's to be the distraction that he needs it to be, then putting out a executive order declaring fentanyl now a weapon of mass destruction, and then just telling us on the 19th of December or the 20th of December or the 18th of December, they're now the cartels from Venezuela, Tres de Arangua, they're sending the fentanyl. It's a weapon of mass destruction. It's coming here, killing millions, 400, 500 million American people. They've said that it could kill. Kristi Noem frequently talks about how the drugs that they stopped could have stopped the murder of like 150 million, 300 million, right? Just like, what is it, 340 million Americans in total, irrespective. We're going to stop them because we're going to bomb the hell out of them. We're going to bomb the shit out of them because the cartel, they're sending a weapons of mass destruction over here. It's worse. I'm telling you, a lot of people are saying it. It's worse. It's worse than a nuclear. It's worse than the nuclear. Worse than that. So, and then, if we see over the next couple days, sociopath Pam Bondi and the rest of the goons, Drunken Pete Hegseth and the rest of the creeps, pushing this narrative over and over and over again that now Venezuela is setting weapons of mass destruction over here. I think we could see, a pretext for them to, declare an all-out war on Venezuela and then potentially indirectly or directly Colombia and whoever else in the region that the village idiot deems would be helpful to whatever it is that he wants at any given moment, at any given hour, at any given day. So those are what I think of the pretext. The macro being the village idiot wants to be king of the Americas and take them all over, and the micro being that, he wants a war to distract us. Now, let's get into this executive order. Let's just read just a little bit, and then we'll wrap up this post for today. All right. By the authority vested in me as president by the Constitution and the laws of the United States. Section 1, purpose and policy. Illicit fentanyl is closer to a chemical weapon than a narcotic. So they're making the argument that fentanyl is more of a chemical weapon than it is a narcotic. It's obviously nonsense, considering the fact that fentanyl is a narcotic, right? Legal fentanyl is prescribed by physicians. Here in the United States of America, legal fentanyl is made by pharmaceutical companies it's a painkiller, right? And illegal fentanyl is obviously killing people. But it's not the problem that the village idiot is pretending that it is anymore. 2 milligrams, an almost undetectable trace amount equivalent to 10 to 15 grams of table salt constitutes a lethal overdose. Hundreds of thousands of Americans have died from fentanyl overdoses. I think the idiot said 148,000 people died this year. Or 153,000. The actual number this year is closer to 48,000. The manufacture and distribution of fentanyl, primarily performed by organized criminal networks, threatens our national security and fuels lawlessness in our hemisphere and at our borders. This is just made up shit, right? It's something that you and I could make up. We could use our storytelling abilities, and we could just say, because it would make sense, right? That fentanyl, organized criminal networks, which is true. That's true. They create and make and distribute fentanyl, and then we can make up that it's a threat to our national security. We can make up that it fuels lawlessness in our hemisphere and at our borders, and that's probably true. But it depends on the context and how you're saying that. And the context here is for the village idiot to have an excuse to go to war. And that is, fentanyl is not an excuse to go to war. The production and sale of fentanyl by foreign terrorist organizations and cartels fund these entities' operations. Cartels, yes. We don't know if they're, I don't think we know. I guess I'd have to research it, but I haven't seen any reporting about fentanyl funding foreign terrorist organizations like ISIS or whatever's left of Al Qaeda or whatever the foreign terrorist organization of the moment is. But they just say it. The production, which includes assassinations, terrorist attacks, and insurgencies around the world, and allow these entities to erode our domestic security and the well-being of our nation. The two cartels that are predominantly responsible for the distribution of fentanyl in the United States engaged in armed conflict over territory and to protect their operations. Possibly. I think it's Tren de Aragua he's referring to, and I don't know what the other cartel is. But they do have territorial disputes in their countries. So that's a real thing. And remember, the thing about misinformation is that there's truth in it, right? There's just truth that is distorted to turn something into a lie, to push a narrative, to misguide the American people so that Trump or whatever goon is coming up with the idea can get whatever it is that they want. The two cartels predominantly responsible for the distribution of fentanyl in the United States engaged in armed conflict over territory and to protect their operations, resulting in large-scale violence and death that go beyond the immediate threat of fentanyl itself. Further, the potential for fentanyl to be weaponized for concentrated large-scale terror attacks by organized adversaries is a serious threat to the United States. It's not. Apparently, I had seen some reporting that the only actual use of fentanyl as a chemical weapon was the Russians. I don't remember what year it was. No one else has done that. I guess the idea that fentanyl exists makes it a possible chemical threat to the United States. But there are a million things that are possible chemical threats. There is chlorine. There is all sorts of other, chemical weapons that are widely available that are always a threat to the United States. So the idea that fentanyl right now is a potential chemical weapon and that there's an actual credible threat, I highly doubt it is based on any intelligence that this goofball Confederacy is looking at. I think they're just saying it. They're just saying it. And then I'm not going to go through the rest of the executive order. It's a very short one. If you kind of read through, that's it, right? It's a quick, nonsensical executive order that means nothing except for the fact that it may provide the village idiot the pretext to take us into war within the coming days, within the coming week, or whenever they want and need to do it. We're going to go over this in more detail in the noon live today. That's it. That's on Substack. If you want to get deeper analysis into stuff like this and just deeper analysis in general, subscribe to my Substack. It's at xenocracy.news. I'll put a link down below. And we do a subscriber live every day at noon over there. And we have some great written content as well. So please join me there. Thank you, guys. And I'll see you again soon.